The NSA spying. Tucker Carlson Tonight host Tucker Carlson said last week on his program that he has information from a whistleblower showing that the NSA is spying on him and planning to leak sensitive communications to get his show canceled. Tucker joins us right now. Tucker, it's great to have you this morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, yeah. You are the only people I get up for, Maria. It's an honor to be here. Yeah, you don't go on TV lightly to say the government is spying on me because you sound like a crazy person. And, of course, you would never say that unless you knew that it was true. And I did know that it was true, almost accidentally. I was in Washington for a funeral last week and ran into someone I know well who said, I have a message for you. And then proceeded to repeat back to me details from emails and texts that I sent and had told no one else about. So it was verified, and this person said, look, the NSA has this, and that was proven by the person repeating back the contents of the email, and is going to use it against you. Now, to be totally blunt with you, I would never have said this in public if it was something I felt was wrong or illegal or immoral. They don't actually have anything on me, but they do have my emails. So I knew they were spying on me, and again, to be totally blunt with you, as a defensive move, I thought I better say this out loud because I have no other way to defend myself. I'm just an American citizen. I don't have, any position of official authority, but I do have a megaphone, so I should say this out loud. And I did. And the NSA didn't deny it. Then yesterday, I learned that, and this is going to come out soon, that the NSA leaked the contents of my email to journalists in an effort to discredit me. I know because I got a call from one of them saying, oh, this is what your email was about. So it is not in any way a figment of my imagination. It's confirmed. It's true. They're not allowed to spy on American citizens. They are. I think more ominously, they're using the information they gather to put leverage and to threaten opposition journalists, people who criticize the Biden administration. It's happening to me right now. And I think it's shocking, and I don't think we should put up with it in a free country.
It's worse than shocking. This is the stuff of banana republics and third world countries. Tucker, there's no way that anybody else saw those emails, and this whistleblower relayed to you exactly what was in your communication, and there's no way anybody else could have seen those emails.
There was one other person who knew that I sent the email, and it was my executive producer, Justin Wells. That's it. And I didn't mention it to anybody else, including my wife. I mean, there's just no possibility that anyone else could have known. And then again, yesterday, I got a call right before air at like 7:15 from a journalist I know and like. Not many left, but I do like this person. And he repeated back to me what's in my email. And he got it because the NSA had leaked it. So, yes, it's entirely real. And I thought long and hard before saying it because, your credibility is the currency, of course, if you're on television and you don't want to seem delusional or like a conspiracy nut or a crazy person. I try to be fact-based, to the extent that we can, and not be crazy and not say things that we can't prove, but this is actually true. And by the way, they essentially confirmed it. I had a shouting match last week with NSA officials where I asked them point blank. They said, well, you're not a target of an investigation, which is a term of art used in the so-called intel community. And I said, stop with your BS. Were you reading my emails or weren't you? Well, we're not going to respond to that. Really? You're not going to tell me whether you're reading my emails. Clearly you were. Why can't you tell me? We can't respond to that. So in other words, they won't answer your questions. They won't tell you why they won't answer your questions. And it's just like, shut up and obey, surf. They don't owe you an explanation.
Yeah.
And my view is I'm a 52-year-old American citizen who pays his taxes and obeys the law. You can't treat me like I'm a peasant. I'm an American citizen. This is a republic. Like you can't talk to me that way. You can't talk to any American citizen that way. Who do you think you are? You running your own country or something? No, you're a federal bureaucrat.
Unbelievable.
And you owe me an explanation. That's my opinion. I'm sorry. I've lived here my whole life. I feel like they owe that to me.
Yeah, and the statement that we just put on the screen from the NSA, again, doesn't deny it, but plays word games and says what the NSA does in terms of monitoring foreigners.
Right. That's exactly right. And what's so striking to me is, look, I'm out of step with most people in journalism in Washington. Most of them are defenders of the Biden administration. They see themselves as Democratic Party operatives, et cetera, et cetera. But we're still all journalists. I mean, our job is still roughly the same, to gather information and give it to our readers and viewers. And this is a massive threat, not simply to me and my show or you and your show, but to journalism itself, to the idea of a free press. You can't have a free press if the intel agencies are secretly spying on you and then using that information to threaten you and to control you. Like this is a huge problem for the country. And yet I don't think there was, outside of, say, Glenn Greenwald, I don't think there was anybody who stood up and said, wait a second, this is a huge problem for all of us. Instead, they made excuses for the NSA. Oh, well, you must have been, emailing with threatening foreign actors. Well, I'm allowed to email with anyone I want, for one thing. I'm a journalist,
right.
And I'm an American, more importantly. It's none of your business who I'm emailing with. If you think I'm committing a crime, then charge me with it. And if I'm not committing a crime, then please leave me alone. I have a right to communicate in private with other people because I'm, again, an American citizen and a human being. But journalists made excuses for this behavior, for the intel agency's criminal behavior. It's like mind-boggling to me.
And this is exactly why we wanted you on this program, because we agree with you. This is wrong. It must be stopped. And the politicizing of all of these government agencies is out of control, from the NSA to the Department of Defense to the IRS. Now, do you think that the NSA is doing this on their own, or is it being directed by the Biden administration?
Well, they are part of the Biden administration, though they seem to operate independently of any political control. I mean, again, in the U.S. government, all the power rests with the people who were elected because this is supposed to be a democracy. No agency is supposed to act independently of elected officials, period. So, I don't know. Here's what I do know, and I know it on direct authority, that the NSA routinely gives information on American citizens to the Justice Department, to the FBI, which it then uses in its intel division. Now, that's illegal. They're not allowed to spy on American citizens. That law has been on the books for a long time. The NSA is designed to monitor foreign communications from our potential enemies, from people who threaten the United States, not from American citizens. But it is routine, and I got this from 2 FBI agents, who would know, not just field guys, people who work at headquarters. This is a daily thing. Yes, we get information from the NSA on Americans, and we use it in our investigations. Really, what? And there's supposed to be oversight of this by the Congress, by the Intel Committee. And there's not. I spoke to a member of the Intel Committee 3 years ago who told me to my face that he was being spied upon by the NSA and CIA. Now, this is not this is not a homeless guy in the subway. This is a sitting member of the Intel Committee who said the people he was supposed to be overseeing were spying on him, and there's nothing he can do about it. That's a totally dysfunctional, out-of-control third world system. The last administration did not fix it to their, I'm sorry to say it, but they didn't. And they should be embarrassed of that. They should have. And this administration is benefiting from it. Somebody needs to step up and say, this is scary, and we have to stop it now.
Well, not as embarrassed as the administration before, in the Obama administration, where you had significant spying going on. And in the last election, the intelligence agencies were used to disaster one candidate. Let's not forget the garbage dossier. And the fact that they used that dossier to take down Donald Trump, and it was all an idea from Hillary Clinton's foreign policy advisor, and yet we still don't have the media calling this out away from Fox News and Fox Business and some in the Wall Street Journal. So why wouldn't they spy and abuse their power, Tucker, when they know that there are no consequences for it?
Well, that's such a wise point. And one of the reasons they don't want to pursue the story is because they would have to concede, in effect, that Trump was right, that he was being spied on by the Department of Justice and by the CIA. Now, I have to say, not only are the media not doing their job, which is to push back against the abuse of power on behalf of the country and its citizens, but they're participating in it. Ben Smith of BuzzFeed, who is now a columnist at the New York Times, when he ran BuzzFeed, uncritically the entire dossier. Basically, he took an intel dump from the spy agencies and just ran it. Just took their propaganda and just kind of put it out there for political reasons. He was willingly used by these actors. And that is kind of exactly the opposite of what you're supposed to be doing as a journalist. You're not supposed to be a tool of some creepy federal intel agency. That's kind of not your job. But that's what he did, and many did.
Yeah. And unfortunately, during the Trump era, the journalists out there, quote unquote, should be ashamed of their unwillingness, and they were incapable of actually covering them fairly. I want to take a break, but I want to talk to you more about this and also get your take on what you're seeing from government agencies, big tech, and the Chinese Communist Party, because it's all looking really very similar right now. We've got to get into it. We're talking with Tucker Carlson this morning. We are also going to get news on his latest episode of his Fox Nation series, Tucker Carlson Originals. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm back with Tucker Carlson, who has been spied on by the NSA. They do not deny spying. They will not admit to it either. But he has had the courage to call out hypocrisy. And Tucker, now we're seeing this partnership with big tech and big government as these agencies are obviously getting politicized. I want to get your take on this New Zealand University professor. He says Twitter temporarily restricted her account after she mocked Chinese President Xi Jinping. This professor was making fun of the CCP's 100th anniversary celebrations, and two of her tweets were marked unavailable. Your take on why Twitter would make her tweets unavailable because she said something that Xi Jinping did not like?
Well, because they finally pulled off the mask. I mean, it's, if you want to know who's in charge, who can't you criticize? And of course, the Chinese are ultimately who the tech companies care about. And it's kind of, I mean, Jack Dorsey doesn't need any more money. He's the kind of nose-ringed ayahuasca enthusiast who runs Twitter, but he's actually a very powerful person in American life. A lot of our most important conversations unfold on Twitter, unfortunately, but that's true. So he has a lot of control over speech in this country, and he cares much more about what the Chinese government thinks, and I think it's a business consideration, than he cares about the ability of normal people to exercise their right of free speech. But it's shocking, and you kind of wonder, like, where's the Congress in this? So most of us, I mean, you and I have platforms, thank heaven, so we have some recourse. If we're wronged, we can say so on TV, and lots of people can hear about it. But in the end, we don't have real power. We can't change laws. We can't command troops. The only people who can stand up for free speech in the Western world right now are Republicans in the U.S. Congress. I mean, that's really, it's kind of left to them. And unfortunately, most of them are very mediocre and dumb and afraid, but they have to step up because there's nobody else to step up. There's no one else to protect, again, not just the right of Americans, but of the entire West to say what is true and to push back against entrenched power. Like, where are they? Why are they allowing this? Seriously.
But isn't it really a sorry state of affairs when journalists are not even sticking up for free speech?
No.
I mean, look at this. The CCP is surveilling its citizens every day. Now we see little pockets of situations similar, like Tucker Carlson getting spied on by the NSA. Are there no journalists left to actually call out this hypocrisy aside from us? I mean, we have been spotlighting and calling out the CCP for so many years now, but it has gotten dangerous. Do they not recognize who they are in bed with just because they've got dollar signs in their eyes to sell to 1.4 billion people? And big tech is just the beginning of it. Don't even get me started about the financials.
That's right. Because people's lowest instinct, this is an ugly feature of human nature, is to suck up to power, to kiss up and spit down. Unfortunately, and part of what it means to be a dignified adult is to fight back against those instincts, protect the weak, fight the powerful when appropriate. I mean, that's kind of our job. And journalists, ultimately, it's not even a left-right question. They suck up to those in charge, and they hurt those below them. And I think it's really ignoble. I think it's disgusting, honestly.
You are putting a spotlight on all of this in your new series, your Fox Nation series, as well as every night on Tucker Carlson Tonight. But tell me about Tucker Carlson Originals. You're out with a new episode. Surviving Disorder deals with regular Americans who experienced anarchy and risked everything for the safety and security of themselves or their families. We have a clip. Let's show it, and then I want to hear about it. Watch.
Yeah, well, it was 2005 when my guns were confiscated right here. I didn't really have any say-so in the matter. All you see on the news is people looting and, walking down the street with guns and TV sets and all of this. I got kind of scared. I wanted to come back and get my gun collection. A lot of people don't think like their guns can be taken. It can happen. It did happen.
such an important episode as Joe Biden chooses guns as his way to fight the crime, which is spiking because of his and the Democrats' policies. Tell us more about the episode.
Look, the police go away, and they're going away across the country. They're quitting because they're discouraged or they're too afraid to enforce the law, or they're being literally defunded in a lot of places. So where does that leave you? Crime rates go up. There's more disorder. There's more chaos. How do you protect yourself? Well, that's your most fundamental right, the right to self-defense. But in case after case that we looked at in the LA riots of 1992, Katrina in 2005, and most recently the riots over the summer, politicians have stepped in and stripped people's right to defend themselves and just left them basically to the mob. It's terrifying. It's accelerating this attack on the most basic right of all, which is of self-defense. And so we thought we would chronicle it in this documentary. We talked to people who've lived through anarchy, and there are a lot of them, it turns out, in this country. And you should know about it, because that could be you in the direction this country is going. So it's pretty simple and worth watching, I would say.
Tucker, is there anything else you can do aside from talking about the spying going on the air? Is there any other way you can fight back?
I can't emphasize this enough. The reason I did not, this is not something I wanted to talk about. I don't talk about my emails. I don't want to seem like I'm, a lunatic. The only reason I said this on TV was because I felt so threatened that I didn't feel I had a choice. I mean, what's my other recourse? I'm a talk show host, so I talked about it. And I really felt I had to. And I'm going to continue doing that and keep pushing the Republicans in the Congress to do something about it. Their job is to provide oversight of these agencies, these incredibly powerful agencies. They're not doing that, and I'm going to keep pushing them until they do, because I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, and they keep getting politicized. Tucker, thanks very much for your work. Great to see you this morning.
Thanks, Maria.